Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Barry here with the Scryguystv, and today we're going to be doing a video on budget cards you can look out for to add to your commander decks. So we're going to start off with and we're going to do this in two cards per section per color pie. So let's go ahead and do that. But we're going to start off with one of my favorite colors in to play in Magic. We're going to go with black. Bitter Triumph is 1 and a black instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card, or pay 3 life. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Now, there have been a couple iterations of 2 mana removal in black that have you losing 2 life, or the caveat is it can destroy a non-legendary creature, but this one, it gives you the choice of either just discarding a land or something that you don't need at the moment, or just pay 3 life. But then it also lets you destroy planeswalkers. Sometimes commander games, usually planeswalkers don't last, but sometimes in special instances commanders do get to last, like ones like Teferi, the one that can trigger on everybody's or on everyone's turn, and then 1 full rotation, and now he's almost at like 2 extra turns, or like, was it the -12? And and usually this used to have to be like a hero's downfall, which is 3 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker. In commander, 3 life is sort of negligible at that point, so definitely I think one to look out for, and I don't see it getting too expensive at all, so definitely a nice budget card to put in any black deck for just removal. Spot removal is always solid. Then next one we have Chupacabra Echo, 2 and 2 black creature, beast, horror, spirit. It has Fathomless Descent. When Chupacabra Echo enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So I'm thinking that this is supposed to be the Ravenous Chupacabra Spirit. Cool thing about this is, though, it scales really well with the game. As long as the game goes on a little bit longer, this is almost better than Ravenous Chupacabra in some instances, especially when you're dealing with indestructible creatures. And you know, if you're playing commander, you have a whole bunch of fetch lands in the graveyard, a bunch of creatures that probably hit at some point. Early game it's not so good, but for decks like what's it called, the Sultai guy that doubles ETBs, or anything that can help you flicker this card multiple times to sort of get around those things, I think it's definitely worth a tryout in those type of decks, just because giving creatures -X/-X gets totally around the indestructible thing. So at certain instances, this could possibly kill a Blightsteel Colossus, a Ulamog. The longer the game goes on, the better this card gets. So I definitely wanted to put it in here, and it's uncommon, and you gotta do it for the flavor. If you like Ravenous Chupacabra, you gotta put its pappy in here. But definitely still worth it, worth a tryout, especially in more niche decks that will put a bunch of permanents in the graveyard. Anything that lets you mill cards into your graveyard. If you're playing the Abzan Reanimator guy, Netheroi, I think he's solid in there as well. So yeah, definitely worth a check out. This card's uncommon, so it's probably not even going to be $1, so definitely try it out. Next we got White Dauntless Dismantler, 1 and a white creature, human artificer. Artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tap, which is great. It is a something obedience, blind obedience. Cool thing about this though is that it has also a ability, XX white, sacrifice Dauntless Dismantler, destroy each artifact with mana value X. This would have been a rare if it's at X or less. I'm not too sure, but just the fact that you could go ahead and do this for 0 to get rid of treasures, map tokens, clue tokens, and more recent light food tokens as well. Just those decks are getting more and more popular. You're seeing them more and more, especially with the Doctor Who stuff and the Frodo and Sam stuff. All those tokens are getting more and more prevalent, so you can go ahead and sacrifice this for a white and 0 and destroy a whole bunch of things. Or you could also just wipe away mana crypts. You could wipe away soul rings with this guy, and at least they have these things enter the battlefield tap. So I think that's pretty strong for an uncommon, and worth it if you're playing any sort of stacks deck. Or just like you're trying to slow your opponents down just a little bit. They're producing a dockside extortionist mana, and maybe you're like, all right, if I just have this one turn, then definitely we can kind of get rid of that. And then when it comes back to your turn, you go ahead and sacrifice all those things, and they can't even tap the treasures that they produce to try to stop you. So I think a lot of people are going to put this, or at least try this out in any decks that they have white, especially with their play group, right? All right, next we got Dusk Rose Reliquary, 1 white artifact. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or a creature. It has Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, exile target artifact or an creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. So it's 1 white. That's the thing. I know people are going to be like, well, you have to sacrifice an artifact or creature, but you're producing so many creature tokens, so many artifact tokens with the addition of map tokens and junk tokens from the Fallout set that's going to come out soon. I definitely think it's worth a tryout. It's 1 mana to do like an Oblivion Ring type of effect. You're going to be able to get rid of the 1 rings because those are running rampant in in Commander. But also just get rid of a creature, and for 1 white mana, and it has protection, Ward 2. So even a generous gift or a beast within now costs 5 just to get rid of this. It's Ward 2 is so tricky for me sometimes, because I'm like, I can get rid of that, but it's like, I don't want to, you know what I mean? But definitely, yeah, it's a 1 mana spell, with the caveat of having to sacrifice an artifact or a creature. And sometimes maybe your creature has gotten turned into a tree folk or a indestructible bug, so you're like, all right, well, I want my commander back, so you go ahead and sacrifice your commander, and yeah, so on and so forth. Really good card though, I think, for uncommon, and I will probably start seeing this around my tables a lot sooner than later. Next we got not my favorite, but a necessary evil, blue confounding riddle, 2 in a blue instant. Choose 1, look at the top 4 cards of the library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, and it also has counter target spell unless it's control, pay 4. So this is, I would like to say, an upgraded version of Supreme Will, I believe it's called, from Amonkhet. It's pretty much the same spell, except the counter target spell is 3 instead of 4, so that's got power crept on. But also, it's just 4 sometimes is pretty difficult, especially when you're trying to map out your mana base, your your resource management. It will sometimes go off. You're like, okay, if they have a mana leak or something, I can pay that. But 4 sometimes is a little bit more difficult. But then if you're playing around a table where you don't need to counter a spell, especially during a 10, or if you're running low on cards and you have a semi graveyard strategy, go for the first mode. I love modal spells just because they fill in so many spots in your deck that it's nice to have that flexibility. So definitely worth a try out if you can fit it in. Next we have Eaten by Piranhas, 1 in a blue, enchantment aura, flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a black skeleton with a base power 1 and 1. So usually I wouldn't really like this type of card because blue does have a couple of effects like this already, like Frogify and all that stuff. I think the one thing that changes it though is that it is a flash enchantment, so it's pretty much an instant, right? So definitely I'm gonna put this in my decks. It also kind of just messes up a lot of people sometimes, especially when you could just do it on a commander. I mean, yes, it's going to probably swing into something so they can get their commander back, but it's a nice setback, especially if a lot of decks nowadays really need the commanders out to really function. I typically like to build decks without needing the commander all the time, but you play Commander to play that card. You know, you have a specific zone for it, so you always have access to it. So this is always going to be commander removal right here. And the thing that sets it above things like Frogify and stuff like that is that it has flash. So go ahead, put that in your decks. It's not like blue has a lot of removal. It's just counter spells. Next thing we have is my favorite color, green. Spelunking 2 and a green enchantment. When Spelunking enters the battlefield, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put a cave onto the battlefield this way, you gain 4 life. Lands you control enter the battlefield untapped. This is a 1 more mana version of Amulet of Vigor, which is pretty awesome, just for lands, obviously. I believe Amulet of Vigor does any permanent entering the battlefield tap, so pretty nuts. I don't think this is ever going to get too expensive like Amulet of Vigor, because that's colorless and this one costs 1 more, but I believe this is going to be an all-star in a lot of those gate decks that people like to play, whether it's 5 color or the Sultai gate deck with the Sultai commander that deals with gates from Baldur's Gate. It's a lot of, I said gates a lot of that, but yeah, just being able to kind of fit this into more budget builds and turning all your gates into dual lands, and all of your tap lands are now just dual lands. It's really helpful, and it helps you catch up and sort of, and the fact that it lets you put a land down onto the battlefield and you get to draw a card out of it, it becomes like this 3 mana cantrip. I think it's totally worth it. And I'm probably gonna pick up a couple of these just because I do love gates. Gates are a ton of fun, dude. All those gate centric type of cards are always fun to play, and I really miss Golos. Next we have Coty Scavenger. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 2 and a green creature raccoon. Descend 4. When it enters the battlefield, if there are 4 more permanent cards in your graveyard, return target permanent card from your hand to from your graveyard to your hand. So this is just another Eternal Witness type of effect. It does have the stipulation that you have to have 4 different permanents in your graveyard, but this just makes it a little bit better to play like mid to late game, or even just if you've been able to fetch a couple lands and maybe sack a couple things, then you can go ahead and hit this Descend 4 requirement. But I think especially because it's one of those cards that you can flicker like Eternal Witness. I do like redundancy in my decks, so I am probably going to try this out too. Probably pick up 1 or 2 just to try it on a deck and see how it works, and then keep going from there. But yeah, you know, and this is also, it's 1 less than the Eternal Witness, I believe. No, what's the 4 mana Eternal Witness? From Modern Horizons 2. That one is kind of cool though, because it does have Eternalize, so that's fun. But then this one, it's just another way to recur things from your graveyard. And if you're able to flicker these things out with like Thassa or any kind of flicker card from white, or what's it called, Astral Drift, there's a ton out there that you could do to flicker this and kind of abuse it just as much as you would abuse an Eternal Witness. Next we have our last cards are going to be red. Ooh, Cyclaw Raptor. This is one I was kind of excited about. 2 in a red, creature dinosaur. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, it deals 4 damage to them. Now sometimes you're at a table and 2 players are going at it with the counterspell war. This could potentially deal 8 to 12 damage. Not to one, well, maybe to one person, you know, it doesn't. But at least if they're going at it, you know, someone's going to be taking a bunch of damage. And this also hits you, unfortunately, but this really just punishes more of those reactive type of decks. I don't really like to build reactive decks because I feel like you're just like land pass, and that's not really my style of play. I like cards like Price of Glory, where it punishes you to be reactive, and and this is one of those cards, and it's overstated, at least with the power at 4/3. It's I think it's a pretty solid card. Just if you're playing mono red, or if you're playing anything 2 color, this is definitely, I think, worth a try. 2 to 3. It's a 3 mana creature for 4/3 that has nothing but upside. So, yep, check it out. And it's uncommon, see? So it's probably gonna be like $1. I know there's like uncommons out there that are more than $1, but that's really just my baseline for a lot of these. And the last card for the video, I think it's a card that's good and not as good as Chaos Warp. Zoyowa's Justice. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Zoyowa's Justice. All right, 1 in the red. Instant. The owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. Then that player discovers X, where X is its mana value. So, certain points that this could be just way worse than Chaos Warp and better. Because sometimes Chaos Warp, you flip into you try to take away their Fabro Elder, and then they flip into an Ulamog, which is not cool. But you know, with this one, you go with the Fabro Elder. They discover for 3, and at worst, at the best case scenario, they just have to put that card in their hand, and at the worst case scenario, they get a Mana Dork or a Mana Rock or something that's not going to be as good as the thing that you decided to tuck away. One Ring, obviously, I keep saying that in these videos, and it's because the One Ring is really powerful, right? Is definitely one that you also want to be able to tuck away, because this gets around indestructible. Indestructible sometimes is hard to fight, and any way that you could fight it in any other color is great. Yeah, and then you kind of get, you also, like with the Discover X, and sometimes they're not going to be able to play that card, you're going to at least also have hand information as well. So I don't know if it's better than Chaos Warp, but I'm willing to maybe take out Chaos Warp to try this out. The thing about Chaos Warp though is it does just hit everything, so that's like another thing about that, right? But then again, it's like the randomness of it. It's the what's it called? It's the doing something out of their color pie type of deal. The backlash, right? I mean, Tybalt's Trickery. There's that too. See, but yeah, these are the cards I think that are going to be great to look out for this set. Definitely. Gosh, I think I've said check it out, try it out so much in this video that you guys might start a drinking game out of it. But yeah, I would definitely pick these cards up, put them on my decks just to try them out. They're nice budget cards that are going to be, I think, going to be great, and you could definitely sort of feel a little bit of a power creep now with these cards, because these cards are doing things that have like 3 to 4 mana versions of themselves. So I'm gonna have fun with this set. This set looks really fun. A lot of the budget cards look really fun as well. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you guys pull. I wanna hear about it.